Yeah, because a lot of people will think right now what we need, this is the very first budget of President Muhammadu Buhari. But at that moment, I mean, how you come out in the morning will determine how you eventually perhaps end up at night for your day. Does this budget looks like something reasonably will change around the situation of the country?
Sure, no one budget changes the situation of any country. What is important is a strategy, a clear strategy of where we are going as a people. If we know where we're going, a budget can be part of a process of moving towards where we're going as a people. So the first thing is clarity. I mean, I was with the vice...
This budget has that clarity.
Hold on, sir.
Okay.
I was with the vice president at the town hall meeting yesterday, and a very important question was asked. What is the Nigerian dream today under the current dispensation? There should be a clear vision of where we're going that talks about how we achieve prosperity for all, how we achieve a country that is fair, that is just, and which everybody can have ownership of. And that drives the energies of people to work towards that goal. And budgets can become part of, building blocks leading towards that. We need a perspective plan, which should not even matter if we had a change of parties in power. I mean, the Koreans have shown us Nigeria needs to build a developmental state that is purposeful towards a setting goal of the collective prosperity of all. But I can say to you today that I am beginning to rethink a developmental state idea, given the character of the Nigerian state that I have found through the years. And I'm saying to myself, can the state really be taken seriously as a source of development? Because if you look, given the character of the Nigerian state, many times the state is more responsible for preventing progress than for accelerating progress. Governors who cancel what their predecessors did just because they were done by their predecessors, and all kinds of things, property rights that are not being taken seriously. So you ask yourself, what model should be? Citizen developmental initiative, in which private initiatives by citizens working together, even as non-state actors in the international community, because the Nigerian state has proved ineffective in advancing the welfare of the Nigerian people. That is the truth of what the evidence is before us. So alternative models need to be taught. You can look at the South Korea, where the state drove that kind of ascendancy. But you look at Nigeria, you see elements of the exact opposite happening in terms of government action. So you must say to yourself, we need a new model. What is going to happen? How can we best respond to the need to advance the welfare and well-being of a majority of our people, not for a few special interests?
Looking at the details of the 2016 budget, over 30% of the budget goes into the capital project. Perhaps the first time in a lot of years that Nigeria has been preparing its budget since 1999, this dispensation. So one will be wondering, is it a good start? We want to diversify agriculture and solid minerals, some of the ways that we're looking at. Are those enough? Are they immediate enough to elevate the sufferings of Nigerians?
But it's important that we're turning the corner around having budgets that are 100% recurrent, really. Because even some of the budgets of the last few years where we say, 96% is recurrent, 4% is capital. In the end, you find that 100 and something percent was recurrent, and whatever capital projects we actually borrowed. I think that philosophically, even though, yes, more money is going to capital expenditure, philosophically, we have to say to ourselves, look, the gap, the deficit in infrastructure that's really required to get this economy going anywhere is so huge that no matter what government budgets, it really is not going to make a dent on the infrastructure needs of our country if we're going to be competitive globally. That private capital is what will develop infrastructure in our country. And look, the G20 has a hub to advise on how private capital can help infrastructure support. I give examples every day. Bangladesh, one of the poorest countries in the world, they're building how many? 3 or so bridges and an underground tunnel past the estuary as we speak. Most of it is private capital. And we're talking about one second Niger bridge. We've been talking about it for generations, literally.
The Fourth Mainland Bridge and all of that.
So it's going to take private capital if we structure government right. But we've got to prevent governors from being a nuisance because they have been a major obstruction to growth in the country.
Running the state has become a burden because most of the states cannot even pay salaries of their workers.
It's because that we're not showing enough creativity in the way we run the states. We've gotten into this prebendal mindset of FAC account meeting, sharing, paying salaries, and some of the stuff that's happened in the past. And it was the same governors that prevented us from saving. And some of them are still around. They prevented us from saving. They are now either in the assembly or whatever place in government, and they are seeing the consequence of their behavior. But where's the learning coming from for the future? Because these things will come back. They're not done things, they will repeat themselves. So we need to create a learning culture. There's no reason why Nigeria should be in the mess that it is in, because Nigeria was in this same mess between 1982 and 85. For a people to repeat exactly a major mistake they made before.
30 years down the line.
Disgraceful.
But I mean, it looks so much that if we are not careful, we still go back into this situation. If God gets us out of this situation and we are able to get out of here. But does it look like we are creating a model that could get us out of this model, situation perhaps permanently?
Well, the public sphere, nature of public conversation is critical to how this kind of thing goes. And this is why what you do here is important. This is why I accept to be dragged out even against my best wishes to come here. See, public conversation isn't taking place in Nigeria well enough. What you get is immature abuse of one person by the other, name calling, but serious engagement on issues. Let me give you a small example. A few of people who have intellectualized this conversation have come down to the so-called new liberalism thing versus the dirigist tradition. It's good that we get the ideas on the table, but we've got to get the people who understand that nexus of praxis and theory and who see how pragmatic approaches can move us forward than, oh, this is what the Washington Consensus said and this is... Nigeria needs a model that is Nigerian, that is focused on the Nigerian people, that wants them to make progress and achieve a better quality of life for the people of Nigeria. And conversation, quality conversation, will lead an elite, which unfortunately I think the political class in Nigeria has become distinctly anti-intellectual. If you can then persuade them to think and to reason and to listen, strains of thought on things that become consensus, no matter who is in office, whether the person is this party or that party, leads to be able to sustaining a developmental orientation that can bring progress to the people.
Does the China trip of the president with his team make it for you in the sense of the right thing to be doing and the right partnership that we need to be making as a country?
It's not about right or wrong. The whole world is our play. We must be able to deal with everybody on the planet and see what will give us distinct competitive advantage at any point in time. We must have permanent interests, not permanent friends. I don't think that you necessarily trade off one for the other. I see a certain constant theme of China versus the West. I don't think that there's any need for it. When this whole conversation was starting more than 10 years ago, the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington had a big conference on this, and they commissioned people to study certain parts of the world, and I was one of those commissioned to look at this part of the world and China's growing influence. And I went to the conference in Washington. When I was making my presentation, it was very funny. There was a Chinese gentleman sitting next to me, and as I was making my remarks and I was referring to some of the things that gentleman said, not knowing he was the one I was referring to, and at the point some people started laughing until I then realized he was the gentleman I was referring to in the presentation. And the point is, having some interest with China that we can learn some things from does not mean that we are against the West or anybody. The British Bank of England, the central bank of the United Kingdom, has holdings in the Chinese currency because there's trade going there. So it's a matter of not seeing ourselves as changing orientation. We are in a global stage, and we should play with all to the best.
It was a great idea, Prof. Going to China.
Nothing wrong with going to China.
Oh, great. All right, let's take a moment, and when we return, the nation is in search of a solution to its many challenges. But which way out now? That is next. Don't go away.